Welcome back. For years, we've been told to avoid white bread. It's full of sugar, can make you fat, and has little nutrition. But that's all about to change.
It can be confusing to know if you should be getting white, brown, wholemeal, whole grain. There's a lot to decipher there. I think there's a lot of falsehoods about white bread.
No, cheap is not always nasty.
For years, we've been led to believe that brown bread is best and white isn't worth touching.
There are a lot of people who are still very sceptical about the health benefits of white bread.
There goes the baker with his tray, like always.
Well, turns out that's just a loaf of lies.
White bread might be the best option for you.
Well, in some instances, yes, a white bread option could be a better option.
The difference between white and wholemeal isn't huge, and there's still a lot of benefits to eating white bread.
Tonight, the bread facts. We've assembled a health expert trio to cut through the myths. What kind is really best for your family?
One of the key things we do want to look at with breads is the glycemic index.
If you can feed your family on an 85-cent loaf and it's good for you, that is great news.
Do bakers dye their bread to make it appear healthier?
There is a little bit of adding things like molasses to brown breads, which does enhance that brown flavour.
And whose claims stack up?
Brown bread is often just white bread dyed. That's what they do. They just dye it and then they add extra sugar to it.
Some multigrain breads can be white breads with a few seeds, and to me, that's not the best type of multigrain.
Multigrain, whole grain, low GI, high fibre white rye. Never have we had more options and more confusion.
Bread is an absolute staple. Nearly every household in Australia will be buying a loaf every few days. That means that the decision could be improved. You could be getting healthier options, you could be getting better value options.
And that doesn't mean avoiding white bread, according to choice consumer expert Erin Turner.
Big misconceptions about white bread are really that it's always unhealthy. I think that we're very blessed in Australia and that companies have now been able to make a lot of improvements to white breads where they're able to add in a lot of nutrients and particularly a lot of fibre, which was originally the reason why we chose wholemeal over white.
Dietitian Melanie McGrice claims that white breads are now lower in salt and preservatives. Plus, all commercial breads have added folate and iodine.
So Melanie, you've compared one of our biggest brands, wholemeal versus white loaves. What did you find?
Well, some people might be surprised to find that the white bread actually was lower in kilojoules, lower in salt and lower in fat than the wholemeal bread.
That is surprising.
Yeah, but the wholemeal bread had more fibre. So because it had more fibre, it would also have more micronutrients.
But not all white breads are created equal. Nowadays, there are plenty of brands that add fibre.
Some of them have more than a standard wholemeal bread.
So how do they rate when it comes to glycemic index, the ranking of carbs according to their effect on blood glucose levels? Dr. Joanna McMillan says the lower the GI, the fuller you'll feel for longer.
Often wholemeal breads have just as equally high GIs as white bread, and that's because the fibre is so ground down that it actually doesn't make a difference to the attack and the speed of the attack of our digestive enzymes. So for a lower GI bread, you've either got to look for one that tells you it's low GI on the pack, or your best option are actually whole grain, where you can still see bits of the grain intact in the bread.
Cheap doesn't always mean nasty, and expensive doesn't automatically mean healthy.
Often when you look at the breads and it looks like it's going to be a whole grain seedy bread, read the ingredients list and you'll find the first ingredient is still wheat flour, and that's a refined white flour that they're then adding some grains and whole grains into.
They're not the only tales we've been fed over the years. How about the one that white bread flour is bleached? Well, in Australia, that stopped years ago. Or have you ever been told that manufacturers colour their brown bread to make it appear healthier?
Molasses has been added to some brown breads. It is used for a couple of different reasons, but it does help to add some darker colour to breads. Look, I don't think it's a bad thing.
I'm not overly concerned about it because the amounts are very, very small.
It goes to show one brand can be very different to the next. This dietitian has served up her top picks. For multigrain, it's Bergen wholemeal and seeds, with a whopping 9 grams of fibre per serve, with lots of different grains and seeds, plus a low GI. Brown bread, Helga's traditional wholemeal, with 65% wholemeal flour. And for basic white, Tip Top the One, low in kilojoules with 5.6 grams of fibre per serve.
You don't have to feel guilty about eating a white bread. Eating a white bread is better than going and having a chocolate or takeaway.
It has a protein content, it is nutritious, it's the staff of life. We've been eating white bread forever and ever.
Sasha Lewis from Babka Bakery believes there's nothing wrong with white bread, but you've got to be careful what you put on it, and don't go overboard.
The first thing you look for is a really nice brown crisp crust. You're looking for taste. You're looking for the fact that it's actually made locally. I think that's quite important. Know where your flour comes from. Know that it's actually well made. If you like it, eat it, but in moderation.
The experts agree on one thing. The healthiest option of all is a whole grain bread, chock full of seeds and grains.
It's whole grains that are associated with a reduced risk of chronic diseases like heart disease and type 2 diabetes.
I'd be recommending that you're looking for a range of different types of grains so that you're getting that variety as opposed to just one type of grain, and looking for something with as much fibre as possible.
And if you're on a diet, watch those portion sizes.
There is a tendency for thicker sliced breads and for bigger loaves, and so it's very easy to suddenly find yourself making a sandwich with enormous slices of bread, and of course that's what's going to up your kilojoules.
Health Star ratings are there to help you find the best option within a category, and we're starting to see the ratings roll out onto bread.
Rather than just going for wholemeal bread and thinking that that's going to be good, I'd really advise families to think about what your family needs and look at the label to find a bread that's really going to suit your family's individual needs.